Hey, how you doing? Hugh Gartizer here. Okay, in this next segment, I'm working on this intake manifold. It's a sheet metal intake manifold that I'm putting together. And this is for my own racing engine. And of course, this is all based on my own theory. Everybody in this type of industry has their own theory. And, and the bottom line on all of this, making parts and horsepower and all of that is, the old saying is proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. So, when I get out there, the thing is, my car is either going to fall flat on its face, or it might run kind of decent, or it might fall somewhere in the middle. Who knows? If it falls in the middle, you keep working harder, you try to get back out there. But anyway, let me just tell you about what I'm going on here. I'm going to turn this phone around so you can kind of see, and then I'm going to show you what we're doing. Hey, how you doing? Hugh Gartizer here. See, I'm going to show you this little video that I'm making right here, where I decided I want to make my own sheet metal manifold. You've seen those cool looking sheet metal manifolds on most drag race cars, sometimes other type of cars. But what I did was I designed my own manifold to fit the engine that I'm working on. And I went in my CAD design program and I made these little templates. These are little pieces of aluminum. They're all shaped exactly the way that I want them to be, so that once they're all bent up, they form a plenum, a sheet metal plenum. This is a V8 engine, small block Chevrolet, and it's going to be a racing engine, so I want it to perform well. So I made these templates for the intake runner plenum. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on my little bender right here. I got this little bender, and this guy is what bends up these sheet metal templates into the plenum. So I'm going to take these one at a time. I got one set up in here, and I'm going to go through the motions of showing you how the plenum is made, the way that I make them. Check it out. Here's the template. I'm going to set it up in my bender. I got the bender marked in exactly the same spot where these go in and get bent every time. I'm going to clamp this dude down. It's kind of crude, but I had this material laying around here in the shop. So I made myself a bender. This is 1/8 inch thick aluminum. Some people make them thinner, but I want to be able to make it for durability. Okay, got it marked exactly where it needs to be bent. So here we go. That's one side. One side has been bent. I don't know if you can see that. Okay? I'm going to flip it in the other way. I'm going to bend the other side. That'll make half of the plenum. You want it to be bent exactly the same on both sides. That way when you put the two pieces together, they form a perfect plenum. The plenum is where the air and fuel intake go into the cylinder head from the carburetor. If any of you are drag racers, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go with the second pin. Looks good. My little homemade bender. Now we have the plenum, half. This is half of it. When I bend up another one, it's going to look like this. This is what my plenum looks like. Okay, you weld the two halves together, and that forms a plenum. Can you see me? Once this is welded onto the intake manifold, manifold is here, you weld this up here, get the other pieces all lined up, carburetor is going to sit up on top, and this is what forms my plenum. Okay, and so I'm going to make 8 of these, and when I go to putting the manifold together, I'll let you check it out. Thanks a lot for watching. Here's my little bender, check it out. Y'all take care. Okay, I got my part in the vise right here. Every time I go to weld aluminum, I like to wipe it down with acetone. Acetone is very good for cleaning aluminum before you weld it. Gets all the oil off. Make sure you got a real clean surface to weld on. All right, here we go. Okay, it's all welded up. Take a look at this. That's how I weld that plenum up. Take care. Okay, here we go. This is my motor, and it may appear to be a Pontiac engine, but to the trained eye, it's really a small block Chevy. There was a small time in space when Pontiac was part of the high performance deal, and you've heard of Big Chief. Well, the Big Chief motors, you know, they originated from Pontiac. and Richard Maskins, of course, owns Dart, and he was there in the beginning, and that thing is still moving out. But this is a small block Chevrolet, and what this is an SB2. SB2, that was the NASCAR motors, and it's kind of the sister motor to the splayed valve engine. The splayed valve engine was the engines that were in the pro stock trucks, and of course those cylinder heads were bigger port volume wise than a big block Chevy, and so they dominated NASCAR, they dominated drag racing, and then of course they were outlawed because nobody else could keep up. So this is the next generation down, SB2, and these are not even used anymore in NASCAR. Everything is based off of LS technology, so the LS motors in NASCAR is called an RO7. Ford has their version, and Chrysler has theirs. But I bought a bunch of hand-me-down NASCAR motors, parts and stuff, and so I'm building an SB2. These things are good for, you know, I'm hoping for 860, maybe 880 horsepower to power my little super stock car. It's underneath there. But let's get back to the manifold. Okay, so here's what we're doing. These are the ports, and these are the plates. I made these on my CNC CAD programming deal. The ports are symmetrical, so it makes it very, very easy to get everything flowing in the same direction. It's not like the typical small block Chevrolet where these two were real close together, these were spread way out. You had runners that had to go all the way out here, and these were real close, and everybody was having trouble tuning everything. So this is symmetrical, and SB2. They make about 880 horsepower without trying very hard. But I'm hoping for, you know, 800 and something. So here we go. The super stock class I want to run is SSBS. And it's no BS, but it is SSBS. And who is the top dog in that? Well, Jimmy DeFrank, been the world champion several times with Jeff Taylor motors, and not really SB2, conventional headed, in inline valves. Okay, so here we go. So you look over here. These are the ports that I fabricated. These are the these are the runners, and basically the way it works is these runners get welded to these plates, and of course the critical thing on all this stuff is everything has to be the same, because these are symmetrical ports. All of these runner volumes have to be the same within a very, very small tolerance, and these are going to get welded on here. You can see over here on the side, these are sticking up sideways. I'm holding this phone while I'm trying to do this. And, you know, one will go over here like this. The other one gets welded over here on this side like this. And you go down the line, that creates your runners, your port runners. And so they're all going to get welded onto these two plates. And I'm kind of doing something a little bit different. GM made this deal down the middle here. This is a separate water jacket. A lot of people fabricate this, but I kind of like this idea because it's three separate pieces. This is going to be all together as one, but this will stay on the motor, and you can take the intake manifold off. And it also has this volume in the middle here, inspection port. You can take that off, take the manifold off. You can kind of look down at your valve train, make sure everything's going in the right direction. Anyway, that's what we're doing. I'm making these intake runners. I've already got them just about where I want them. They all need to be exactly the same from this surface to the small surface, from the large to the small surface. And I already know that I mic them. They're already symmetrical side to side. Now I got to get the lengths all the same. That way when they're on the intake manifold, fuel distribution is going to be the same to each port. And that makes it very, very easy to control the air-fuel mixture going into each cylinder. You don't have cylinders running leaner or hotter. At least that's what I'm hoping. Because this motor, you're only allowed one carburetor, and it only can be a 750 CFM, and it has to be a GM produced carburetor in this super stock class. And so what that means is I'm going to end up with something that probably a lot of you have never heard of, called a Rochester or Quadrajet. It was what was right at the end of the beginning of the what they called the throttle body. It was the beginning of the fuel injection age, and it was the end of the carbureted age. It had the little bitty ports in the front and the giant you know, secondaries in the back, and when you stomped on the gas, it made that roaring noise that you just don't hear anymore. And so that's what I'm running, and this is what we're doing. As soon as I get these all tacked on there, I'll show you another picture of it, because they're at such an angle that I can't hold them. They won't stand up by themselves. Okay, but that's what we're doing. Catch you in a little. Okay, now there you are. They're all tacked together. Everything is just tacked on to the flanges. All of the runners are all tacked on. You can see the corner weld right there. And I just got them all tacked in. Everything, I'm gonna get out this way so you can see how it's kind of gonna end up. You know, there's gonna be a piece of flat, you know, that's cut out, of course, for the runners. It's gonna come down into the middle here. It's gonna kick back up. The sides are gonna kick up. And there'll be a, you know, a flat deal across the top. Carburetor's gonna be up above. And you know, but that's the way it's going to kind of end up. Everything is just about, I measured all of these plenums, and they're all exactly the same length, same width, and same height. So I'm really happy about that. But you know, it's just a matter of trying to keep all of the things symmetrical, and everything's going right down the middle here. So you can see down the port, there's enough room for hand porting. It's just the port in the head has got a radius on the corners, and that's all going to be filled in with epoxy. But everything is pretty much in line with each other. So those are the port runners, and everything's going to be smoothed out. All of these, I didn't have a radius bender, so I bent it on my regular bender. You saw that. These will all be epoxied in where they'll have a radius and form the shape of the head down there. So, but that's it. And these, once I get the plate in the middle, I get the plate on the top, we'll kind of take a look at it. And the thing I like, of course, is the piece that the GM makes that goes down the center here. You can take the intake manifold off, and then you can inspect down inside the valley cover. But anyway, these Pontiac valve covers are very rare. I'm glad I found them, because the car, of course, is a Pontiac Sunfire with corporate GM engine. So that's what we got. And once I get the rest of it going, I'll continue this video. See you. All right, good morning once again. This is Hugh. I'm still working on this intake manifold, and it's another day. I've got most all of it welded up. And you know, I've got a lot of material around the ports here to make a contour to radius, you know, airflow. And everything, I don't know, you can't really see down the port, but everything is lining up pretty good. I'm just starting to clean up. You can see I've done some cleanup on this side here. Got the epoxy has been ordered, and it's actually been shipped. And once I get that in, I'm going to start epoxying these ports to contour it to the shape of the cylinder head, so that the airflow isn't disrupted, and you know, give it my best effort. But anyway, I got a few things on here that you know, I'm cleaning up around. Got to do some clearancing so that you know, everything clears, and once it's all welded together, I know everything's going to work. This is part of the water, and but anyway, that's how it's coming, and you can kind of get an idea right there. I mean, I still got to put the ends. Once all the work is done on the ports, I'll start putting the ends on. It's much easier to work on this thing while it's wide open like that. But these pieces right here are going to be bent up, and I think I mentioned to you I got some other pieces that are going to be put on for the carburetor. I ended up with a mock-up carburetor that's going to go on it, so I get all the linkage and everything set up, and that's how it's going. So once I get a little farther along, something more substantial, I'll post it on the end of this video. All right, take care. All right, I'm going to show you what I'm using here. This is the two-part epoxy that I'm using on this intake manifold. This is called Splash Zone two-part epoxy compound. Part number is A788. And if you look right here, there's a part A and a part B. And these are two different containers. And what I did was you take a little bit out of this container with a a scooper. It's thicker. It's a consistency. It's thicker than peanut butter. It may be just about the same or slightly thicker than peanut butter. And you take a 50. It's a 50-50 mix. Whatever you take a little bit out of this one, you put it on something to mix it up. You take the same amount out of that one and mix it up. Excuse me. And here's what we got. It kind of ends up being an army green color. It's a dark green. This is the manifold. Building up the floor. I've already put it inside the ports. You can see, let me go around this way. You can see I've got it inside the port. And what I'm doing is I'm following this contour. This contour right here that's been cut out. This is exactly the same contour as the cylinder head is. And because my bender isn't a radius bender, when I bent these pieces, it's a little too sharp, and air doesn't flow very well through a square. It flows with a high velocity through a cylinder. And so since these edges are round, I'm contouring. I spread the epoxy in there last night, dried overnight. Takes about 24 hours for it to dry fully. You can see I've already started working on this port right here. And I'm eliminating all of the epoxy that dried up, but I'm leaving a contour in the corner of these ports right here on the inside. It won't be this square. It's going to look square on the outside, but of course on the inside we got epoxy. And so that's what's happening. I use this type of tool right here. These little sanding grills. They go in here. You just start working it, and you just start working it and clean it off of the port, and you leave a contour on each of the four edges, all the way into the port. This will reach all the way in. Of course, you can turn around the other side. You can see you can start working on the other side. Go over here and see the light. All the way through. And it's a lot of cleanup. It's kind of messy, but this is what it takes. And I'm going to build up this floor. This is sitting on the side. I'm going to build up this floor so there's actually a subtle little ramp. It'll be high in the center, and it'll have a subtle little ramp leading into the port after it's all done. But that's what I'm doing, and we'll see what happens. I already have an idea of what this size port and this shape will work with this motor over here. And let me take you over here so you can see that. See, that's the head port. And so when I end up finishing this manifold, the manifold will have the same shape, and air will have no turbulence, hopefully. It'll be a perfect match. Air will flow through the intake manifold down into the cylinder head, and hopefully have some type of a performance advantage from a sheet metal intake manifold. But that's what's going on, and that's what I'm doing. And so I'm going to work on these ports. Probably won't get back to you until I have them all finished up, and then you'll be able to see. This is I got another thing coming. This is the top. This is going to be the top. I got a paper template. I took a measurement of all of these. This will sit up on top. The intake, the intake of the carburetor. This is for a Dominator top here, but I'm also got one coming for this right here. This is the type of carburetor that I have to use. If you remember these, this is called a Quadrajet. Quadrajet. It has, in super stock eliminator, the carburetor has to be a factory produced unit. and it can be, in the class I'm running in, it can be no more than 750 CFMs. So this is what's going to sit up on top, and I've got the pieces. I mic'd all of this out for the bore, and so you can see the numbers here. The bolt pattern and everything will match this carburetor exactly. And then once this is all finished, I can put it on the car. This is over here, and get my throttle linkage all hooked up, get that all figured out so that everything works together. But that's what's going on. And so when I get all the epoxy done, we'll see how it's all going to end up. Okay, got a dragster project over here too. One of these days I'll get back on that, but right now I want to finish this Sunfire over here. Okay, I'll take care of it. Okay, here we go. Had to wait for that compressor. I did a little more porting on here. I want you to see the contour in the corners back in this area over here. This port is beginning to take a round shape on the edges. This is the side we're looking at right here. That's the plenum side, and so this is much larger, and it funnels down to the part that the cylinder head goes on. But I just did some more porting and cleaned away what was on the edges and made a radius in the corners, basically a fillet or a radius, so that by the time it gets down to the bottom, the port is the same shape as I'm talking about right down here. The port is the same shape as the cylinder head. See, I haven't done this side yet. All I did was fill it in, and I started working on this part up in here, just so that by the time the air that goes through this plenum gets down to the cylinder head, it's entering the cylinder head the same shape as the head. So what I'm trying to do is avoid turbulence. You want a high velocity of air and fuel mixture going into the cylinder head with as very little turbulence as possible. And of course this is the plenum. It's sitting up on its side so I can work on it, but I just wanted you to see most all of that epoxy gets sanded away, except for what's left, the radius in the corners. And you can't really see it, it's this light on this phone, but it leaves a radius. So down at the bottom where it enters the head, the port is the same shape. Okay, so look at this. This one hadn't been done yet, and so you know that's what I wanted to show you. After I cleaned it up a little bit, the sides and the bottom and the top is all cleaned away, because that is the sad shape. But the corners, because I didn't have a radius break, I got to fill them in with epoxy. And so, you know, it's kind of yucky, and most all of it is getting sanded away, but it's leaving me with this radius that you see right there, and that's what I'm after. It makes a nice subtle transition, but makes a radius. So that's how it's working, and that's what we're doing.